Welcome to the Heart of Racing. This is the Good Oil episode. Ahead of the Caulfield Cup, I got Will Freedman with me. How are you, Will?
I'm looking sharp today for me.
You've got sort of a collared shirt on.
Most of the time I come on here, I look like I've just come from the stables, but today I'm feeling fresh.
Are you out with clients or something?
No, I'm just making sure that I get the edge on you.
Okay, good.
I'm wearing, I can afford better clothing. I've been on a run.
I'm going to get to that. I have written in my notes for today's show that Will Freedman's on a roll with his tips and his sayonara's.
Get around me.
I am getting around you. Okay, we've got to start with the pineapple. The Freedman Award, famously from back in the old Freedman stable days, they'd give a pineapple to the jockey who had the worst ride. Who had a shocker last weekend?
He didn't have a shocker of a weekend,
but he's the nominee.
He won the Kosciuszko, so Tyler Schiller's, I think he's leading top jockey in Sydney.
Yeah.
But in the Reginald Allen, which was a putrid race, like it was a really bad race.
Yeah.
He was on a horse called Broadcaster. He's jumped okay on even terms, tried to come across.
Yeah.
And the cardinal sin is sitting 3 wide, no cover at the tail of the field. Like, be 3 wide at the front. You're not going to win anyway, but at least you're closer to the lead. 3 wide with no cover at the back at the tail of the field. You're in the worst. It is the worst spot. And then went via the Cape up the straight. The horse ran 4th beaten 2 lengths or 3rd beaten 2 lengths. I'm not saying it should have won. Arctic Glamour was very good, but God, it was a shocker.
Okay.
It was terrible.
If I'm running last and I'm 3 wide.
No cover. No, nothing else is in front of you. Just go back to last, mate. You're already equal last.
Oh, the sayonara. I'm struggling with the sayonara, the horses that we're sacking. And looking ahead of tomorrow's races, I've struggled to find a horse that I just can't back tomorrow. I wanted to say Montefilia again, but I said it the last 2 times it raced and it got beat. Then it won. So I don't know if I can say. I'm going to say Converge. Every time it races, Converge.
It's such a letdown of a horse.
You know, Converge is in the Five Diamonds Prelude. It's the top weight, and it's in the market again. I'm going to put in the Converge for Waterhouse and Bott. I just can't put any money on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's been quite a disappointing horse. It always has like a bit of a
It's always going to do something.
And they're always like, oh, it's such a good horse. It hasn't done much since it was about
good
a
horses
2-year-old.
win. Good
Agreed.
Horses win.
I'm going to take a pretty big punt here, and I'm going to sayonara Spacewalk down in Melbourne in the 1,000 metres.
Yeah.
At Caulfield. I think the horse is overrated. It's gone from benchmark 72 grade up to Group 2 grade, and I think that's a monumental leap to go from, and I'll be damned if I think that's going to win a Group 2 up the straight. It's a Group 2.
It's a Group 2. So Caulfield, 1,000.
The McCafe sprint.
1,000 metres and 3-year-old and up, Group 2, 300 grand prize money, first 180,000.
Like I'd be taking
it's a 280 favourite. It's only going to be a 6-horse field at this stage.
I know. So I'm taking a leap of faith here. But fortunately, when you sayonara one, you should almost never be wrong because there's only one winner and there's most of the field doesn't win.
Well, I was wrong last time when I sayonara at Montefilia. Anyway, the So Simple. Look, this is my So Simple this week, the thing that we should have seen coming. And I backed it. The sticky barrier did cost I Wish I Win because he didn't get out and have a full crack at him in the state that he needed. But in saying that, Will, if he'd drawn wide and he was cast wide and was down the back,
he wouldn't have won anyway. Yeah, I thought
Think It Over was the best horse in the race.
I know. Well, all I would argue for that is Think It Over got all the breaks.
Yeah.
Got the nice barrier.
But that happens to good horses.
I know that, but if there's in another time you switch over the barriers and Think It Over draws 1 and I Wish I Win draws 4, then maybe the role is reversed. But I'm on the same race, same problem. The So Simple for me was In Secrets couldn't have won from that barrier.
No.
Either.
And it was a good run into 4th.
4th and flew home. And Zach had to weave through traffic, but in the end it just barriers win races. And I see this all the time with punters on social media.
Yeah.
It's, why are you scratching? You know, you can win from wide barriers. I reckon often it's through futures markets. They're telling you through their pocket, being like, you have to run because I don't get my money back if you don't run.
That's in the all-in futures markets.
in the all-in futures markets. And barriers win races. You get the run of the race. It gives you lengths you don't deserve against other horses that haven't drawn well. So my So Simple had to be, I feel a bit silly for it, but yeah, and Secret was probably could have won with a barrier as well, but didn't because of barrier 12.
Anyway, I had more on the place on I Wish I Win than the win. I know you hate how I do that, but I don't care. It's about not.
It's like kissing your cousin.
I'm a defensive punter. It's about not losing money. Now we get into the Gates Fly this week. This is where we cut through an issue. And it's happening today where two horses are going to have to pass a barrier, pass a steward's test before they can run in the Caulfield Cup. That's nonconformist and without a fight, trained by your uncle and your cousin, Anthony and Sam Frieden. Without a fight, they did all those great things in the Queensland Winter Carnival. Plus all the international horses will have to gallop up this afternoon. Now, look, this has been brought in because of the deaths in the Melbourne Cup that were coming year after year from international horses. It was a problem. I'm telling you it's a problem because my wife and 19-year-old daughter won engaged in the Melbourne Cup because of it.
Yeah, and it's
a problem.
It happened over a span of
5-6 years.
Yeah, at least 5
from
to 10.
From Admire Ratke onwards.
Yeah, and it was always an international horse. I don't think a locally trained horses has been put down after the Melbourne or died in the Melbourne Cup for 50 years, 50 plus years.
Dulcify it might have been in 1980.
Yeah, so we're talking nearly 50
years.
Nearly 50 years. So what happened is we essentially had a group of Europeans that came over. The trainers would fly in on race day, so they weren't overseeing their horses. They came into conditions that were really foreign to them because Australia's tight-turning training tracks. In the Europe, they are used to big, long, straight gallops, no change.
It's like running over the rolling paddocks, isn't it?
Or it's like going from running in sand, deep sand, when you've been doing that your whole life like they do in Europe, which is not sand, but it's soft ground, and then coming to Australia that's really firm, like running on bitumen. You go shins or you have problems. And what happened is now the Australian trainers who know their craft really well, like we're talking about Anthony Friedman and, many other trainers that are all coming through this, like even Kieran Ma, they've had problems with it before. You're talking about trainers that have trained in Australian conditions for 40 years.
And they know their horses.
They know their horses and they know how much they can push them to make sure that, devastating things don't happen. But we got this wave of international horse, which was encouraged by the race
VRC
clubs
themselves.
Yeah, to say, come over and run in our race. It was going to spruik up the event.
And gave them big incentives.
Yeah, and in the end, all it did is it put huge amounts of pressure on our industry because the Melbourne Cup is the showpiece event of the year. Well, was then and probably still is now. That and the Everest are the two. And these deaths were crippling our industry, but now they put in all these bells and whistles. And don't get me wrong, they've been trotting horses up for a long time. So this is not new.
So the new rules are, they trot horses up. The international horses are having to go through this body scan.
CT scans.
Yeah, body scan X-rays.
Before they come out and then again here before the race.
Yeah.
So there are these, that's to try and mitigate anything that might be approaching, right?
Yeah.
Like they're trying to get things before it becomes a problem.
It breaks its leg in the Melbourne
But
Cup.
trotting up horses has been something that has happened for a long time, particularly for big races. But the scrutiny on these horses now is
double.
Yeah,
triple.
and if they see any hint of irregularity, they go, well, no, it can't run. No, not running, or there's a lot more, there's not so much leeway where a trainer goes, this has been this way, this horse has been for
a lot of times trainers go, that's the way that horse walks.
Yeah,
walks like that
they've
every
got
day.
a funny gait, and after they've raced for quite a while, it's just people get older. Like you don't run out as well as you did when you were 16 when you're in your mid-30s. That's exactly what it's like. It's like your body just starts to get a bit older. Doesn't mean you're sore, doesn't mean you're going to break down. Just means things are changing and you warm horses up differently, you walk them longer. There are all these different ways to manage it. But unfortunately, we're in a position now where it's becoming so heavily scrutinized that trainers aren't given any respect from the vets to say, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, my horse is fine. My vet passes it. Everything's okay. So we're in this situation now where we need to find an equilibrium. because we don't want international horses coming out here and then breaking down in the Melbourne Cup and causing my wife and daughter to say, I can't deal with the Melbourne Cup anymore because all these horses die, right? Because the whole thing just amplifies.
Yep.
But local trainers have got to be given the respect that I know this horse. That's how that horse walks. He's got a funny walk.
And the internationals made their own bed. They brought out a heap of horses and a heap of them broke down.
Yeah.
We didn't, as local trainers, we didn't have the same problems.
No.
So when they say it's got to be one rule for everybody, well, no, it doesn't have to be one rule for everybody.
So you're saying, as a Metropolitan trainer, one rule for the internationals and one for the locals.
And if they have a string like of 15 years where there's no problems, give them a little bit more leeway. Say, okay, well, we don't need to go all through. But at the moment, it is really strict for you. You guys don't have to deal with the aftermath of this, where the industry in Australia has to deal with the aftermath. They just gallivant back to Europe and forget it ever happened. So,
because the odd thing about it all is, so all the Caulfield Cup horses have to trot up, and all the horses for the Everest, and all the horses for the Golden Slipper, and everything like that. But if I look at the form guide for Canberra racing on a Friday afternoon, there's 8 races there. So what, we're talking 100 to 120 horses, none trot up.
No, none.
None. Zero.
No.
All the trainers of all those horses are trusted.
And that's okay. The scrutiny is heavier on the big races. It's an important...
But it does add that microscope to those.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you just have to look. There's incidences that happen in horse racing. We're not shying away from that. But... there's just got to, in my opinion, there's just got to be a little bit more respect given to trainers and to say, and then it's also on the trainers to be transparent and honest, because I'm not just saying it's like trainers can do nothing wrong. I'm just saying that the dialogue needs to be more constructive rather than just coming in and saying, well, that's not running because it's not like I think it should be. But if you don't know the horse, you don't really know what normal is.
That it always walks like. Okay, so look, it'll be a big issue.
Anyway.
It'll be a big issue.
It always
from now until after the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, because there'll be more. They haven't even started on these international cup runners yet.
Yeah.
There'll be more come of this. Every year it does. But hopefully we just get through another cup season with no injuries. All horses are safe. That's the only thing we want. Anyway, trainers want the same thing. You don't want to go home without a horse. It's the most devastating thing in racing.
We're happy enough to tell people that you trained a horse for me and a bunch of my owners, and she broke down in a race.
Yeah, and she'd been trotted up for the vets before.
Yeah,
had done it, and these things happen, and it is soul crushing.
And the phone call you had to make to me. And I knew something had happened because I could see it on the TV, and it's tough. For everybody.
It's devastating. There's no two ways about it. So people should know that the industry doesn't shy away from it. They address it, and I can remember every horse that I haven't come home with, and there's only been 2, but I remember it vividly.
Exactly. Hey, let's get into the racing. Royal Randwick. Now we've got to explain that this is a weird meeting, and it comes about because. Well, basically because the Melbourne Cup is on the last day it could possibly be, November 7th, Tuesday being the 7th.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's thrown up this kind of meeting. Whereas the Melbourne pattern, if you work back from Derby Day, it's always Derby Day, the previous Saturday's Cox Plate, the previous Saturday's Caulfield Cup, the previous
Saturday. So everything pushes back a week.
Guineas. Yeah, so they don't care. They just come back from there. But Racing New South Wales wants to fit the Everest in 2 weeks after the NRL Grand Final, which is why some years it's been Caulfield Cup Day, some years it's been Caulfield Guineas Day, which leaves us with this strange meeting where we've only got a 5 Diamonds prelude and a big dance wild card and a stack of benchmark racing.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's not a vintage meet this week.
No, it's not.
And it's a bit lackluster, but Melbourne's very good. So, it's probably Melbourne's week to shine, to be fair. I think this is the week where Melbourne need to put on the show.
And let them have a go. Look, we'll quickly just talk about the 5 Diamonds prelude. Look, earlier in the show, we both potted Converge a bit. It's the $9 favourite. Democracy Manifest, after that good win at Newcastle, then a 5th in the Epsom handicap.
Super in the Epsom.
Yeah, ran 5th. It was a good run. It's the $4.40 second favourite for Chris Waller and Tyler Schiller, so hopefully he's not 3 wide at the back end of the field. Coda Heels in the market at $6. Waterford's there at $7. I don't mind Altivo at $9. Zach Lloyd's riding it for the Hawk stable. But it's one of those horses that's always unlucky.
And you know the other thing about this race is worth more. The preview or the prelude for the Five Diamonds is worth more than the Flight Stakes and the Metropolitan. Group 1 status. It just shows you how it's all a bit out of kilter at the moment.
This is $1 million race.
I know, but it's
this prelude.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And the actual race, I think, is a $2 million race. So
it doesn't.
I'm not trying to be critical, but it doesn't
need to be worth that much money.
No, they'd still run if it was a $300,000 race.
Yeah, and to say that it's worth more than the Metropolitan and the Flight Stakes are each
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
No. So look, it's
a bit of an odd meeting.
I'm tipping Democracy Manifest. It's in a really purple patch of form.
Deserves to win a good race and worth $580,000 to the winner. Let's get to the Caulfield Cup. I think I might give you the form guide. I've got the physical form guide here as I do. Go through, don't go through them runner by runner, but Gold Trip. Is
it going to run?
Well, there's still some talk it might come out ahead of tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know. People are telling me he's trying to do the old Lee Freedman. I call it the Lee Freedman when he seemingly got the Melbourne Cup ground watered for Maccabi Diva, but I don't know. I reckon it's going to run in the Cox Plate. I reckon we can actually rule it out. Brett, you've heard it first here. I reckon it's going to get ruled out.
So Gold Trip won't be running. So Gold Trip is the $6 favourite. It was after that unbelievable run at Flemington last start where it just look. Gold Trip is a bit of a Flemington horse.
But the other thing is, from your perspective, from an owner's perspective, what would you prefer to win, the Caulfield Cup or the Cox Plate?
I'd rather win the Cox Plate next week.
I reckon most people agree with you.
I would much rather win the Cox. And if I owned Gold Trip, I'd be going Cox Plate Melbourne Cup. We know it handles the 2 miles.
Just whether the straight's long enough for it to come, because it's going to come back in the field like it did in the Turnbull. So I don't know. That's the only question mark there.
Well, without a fight, it's got this Steward's question over it. Look, it was a good run first up. I've got no problem with it in the field. We'll just see how it goes. Breakup is one of these Japanese horses where we go, it's not their best horse in Japan, but sometimes they come out here and just brain out.
Yeah, I'm big watch on Breakup. Big watch.
Okay.
I think...
Anything else in the field you like? Solcomb's been threatening to do something.
I think Solcomb's a very good chance. Very good chance.
C. Williams, 53.5 kilos, barrier 6. Beautiful.
And as I said, barriers win races. Francesco Guardi, I don't know.
It's been set for...
the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, and the 1.5 miles, it's been dying to get there. It's got 2 big factors on its side. J. McDonald, C. Waller.
And the other one that is obviously of interest is the Akita Sushi. Joseph O'Brien's got a very good record here. He doesn't bring out too many failures. So look,
Akita Sushi sounds like a Japanese horse. It's come out here from the UK. It won at Ascot in June. Not such a good run last start, but he wouldn't be bringing it here and putting it in a Caulfield Cup, putting Kieran McAvoy on his back.
No way. And the other thing, this is really the lead up race for the Cup. You got to remember, we don't get the opportunity like we did 20 years ago to see them race for 5-6 starts before they get to the Caulfield Cup.
Yeah.
A lot of these horses we're seeing for the first time. There'll be some really big red flashing lights on a few of these horses going into the Melbourne Cup. So it's important to watch, particularly if you're going to talk to the cab driver on Melbourne Cup Day and he's going to tell you about all the runners you want to be watching on Saturday.
Yeah, okay. So have you got a final tip for me in the Caulfield Cup?
Yeah, I'm going to take Without a Fight if it runs. I think it just...
I like it too.
I think barrier 7... Great barrier. We'll sit a lot closer this time. Hardened for the first up run. I think it's 3 weeks between runs, or 2 weeks between runs.
And your cousin Sam says that there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
No, he says that he's confident it's going to pass.
So there we go, Without a Fight, and we see how he goes from that into the Melbourne Cup. Do you want to have a quick look? The Alinghi Stakes is a listed race for fillies and mares.
Viviani
in the last. In the last, I think so.
It's undefeated. Is that right?
Yeah, its form is
1
picket
1 1
fences
1
1 1 1 1 1.
So But, they're there to get beat. But we say this and then they don't. Not a vintage field. I think, it's
not too bad. There's some
wide barrier, though. It's just
the
worries you.
And the races you really got to look out for tomorrow at Caulfield are race 2. That is the 3-year-old set weights Group 3 race. A lot of horses that will head towards the VRC Derby are in it. And the Waller-trained Riff Rocket, it's $1.50, $1.45, $1.50. It looks like...
It's a moral.
It looks like the absolute P.
I don't think it's not a vintage race this year. And because what happens, right, is this is a programming thing.
Yep.
A lot of the better boys go to the Spring Champion in Sydney, Group 1 next week.
Which is next week.
2,000 metres.
And also next week you'll have that 2,040-metre race for 3-year-olds.
And at Moonee Valley, the Vars. So there's a lot of spreading of horses before it comes together in the Derby. So look,
remember the year when your dad and uncles trained a horse called Mahogany, right? Mahogany.
Some horse that.
What a horse. And Mahogany's owned by Lloyd Williams and Kerry Packer. And it's...
he named his yacht.
It's a
Mahogany.
He named the room at the casino after it, the Mahogany Room. It was $1.50 in the Vars, right? And ran 3rd. Then the next weekend, it comes out in the VRC Derby, and everyone's going, oh, well, it probably won't stay, this horse. And someone by the name of Kay Packer backed it from 5-1 to 4-1 in the last 2 minutes of betting, and it won by about 5 lengths.
Sounds totally above board, that.
Mate, you've got to be...
He's just lucky, man, Kerry.
Oh, the Freedmans and Kerry Packer back in the day.
No, the best. I don't remember the exact race it was, but David Hayes put on a betting plunge and then went into the steward's room and they said, David, did you know about this? And he said, yeah, got on. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, good stuff. Rightio, mate. Are you going to unload on one for me for tomorrow?
Oh, Riff Rocket.
Look, it's really short, but Riff Rocket early in the day, just back it and use the winnings and put it on the horse that I am going to absolutely declare.
Yeah, I agree. And if you want one for Saturday that'll be at a bit of odds, Miss Judas in the first at Randwick.
Judas,
Richard and I train it. May not win, but we'll be
back
storming home. It's a bet for you, Breeny. A bit each way.
So that's a 2-year-old race over 1,000 metres. It's only the second time we've seen 2-year-olds on a Saturday in Sydney. And it's
about $16.
Yeah, and it's barrier 10.
Yeah,
10.
But there's only 7 in it now. It'll go back, and there's always a lot of speed on in 2-year-old races this year, so watch for it storming home.
Rightio. So, and my tip of the day is Democracy Manifest. I think we can get some money out of it.
Yeah, I agree. We're together this week. We're not against one another.
I know. Well, I'm following you in because you've been absolutely on a roll week after week. All the ones you've potted have got beaten, and the ones that you're tipping have been winning. And I cop all these texts on a Saturday afternoon and absolutely drive me crazy. So, Will Freedman, happy punting over the weekend.
Yeah.
The Heart of Racing, our episode that comes out Monday, is an unbelievably raw interview with Sam Kavanagh.
Yeah, and he's completely open and transparent, and
he's had a fallout with his famous racing family. He's battling cancer. He's back from the big cobalt suspension.
Yep.
And it's heart-wrenching stuff. So it's a good chat. I'm looking forward to everyone hearing it on Monday.
Absolutely. Happy punting.
See ya.